Subscribe if you can still breathe steady in the dark. Like, comment, awake, and don't blink because what waits at 2:33 a.m. is already watching you. The sirens hit Langley Ridge like a blade. A cul-de-sac of perfect lawns, white swings and blinds half drawn, and in the center house, number 14, the porch light stuttered, failed and died. Patrol units boxed the street. Neighbors filmed from bedroom windows, thumbs trembling. Detective Mara Quinn stepped from her unmarked with a penlight and a face the color of midnight coffee. On the curb, a girl's bicycle lay on its side, wheels spinning, ticking like a metronome against the concrete. The clock on the living room mantel, battery fresh, wires neat, read 2:33 a.m., same as last week, same as the week before that, same as the one that made the national brief. Power cut, locks cycled, a family frozen by a sound they could not place, a shadow that never showed on the street cameras and a child whispering, "He's in the wall." Inside, Avery and Jonah Hargreaves stood barefoot in pajamas, cheeks washed with the cold shame of fear. Their 8-year-old, Noah, kneeled by the hallway rug, palms pressed to the floorboards. "He knocked from down there," he said, voice small. The baby's room door stood open. A soft toy lay face down beneath the crib. The smart home panel blinked a polite error. Entry code accepted at 2:33 a.m., user unknown. The log said local access. The router log said nothing at all, erased in a neat 5-minute window between 2:29 and 2:34. Sergeant Elias Hart lifted a thermal camera and swept the nursery. Cold corners. "Someone opened a window then closed it," he said. "Condensation on the latch." He pointed to a scuff like a thumbnail had worried the brass. The baby monitor, a cheap model with a battered antenna, was on, though the Hargreaves swore they'd switched it off after the news cycle weeks back. Its green power LED glowed steady, feeding static and a soft, repetitive squeal, the kind you hear when two mismatched machines try to share a frequency. "Same pattern," Quinn said. Power cut at the breaker, manual reset before the house alarm chirped. Back door latched from the inside. No prints. No footprints. "Whoever this is," they rehearsed. Hart nodded toward the wall opposite the crib. "That's new." A chalky smear, barely there, like the afterimage of a number rubbed out. He wet a cotton swab and drew it down. The pale ghost of a 2 brightened, followed by a slash, then a 33. On the baseboard, a residue line where tape had been. "He tags the time he owns," Hart said. Quinn's jaw worked while she studied the floor plan. Back in the living room, she crouched by the mantel. The clock's battery door had a screwdriver bruise. She popped it, sniffed. "Ozone." "He's running a bypass," she said. "Clock's on a micro relay. Someone wanted this room to read 2:33 even if the world ended." "Why?" Hart asked. "So every victim learns his hour and hates it," Quinn said. On the kitchen table, a child's spelling worksheet, a conference flyer, a folded warranty for a smart doorbell system. Installed last month after the first wave of midnight stories, still in its box. Jonah swallowed. "We thought, if we waited till the panic passed, we'd install it right. I didn't want to look paranoid." "Paranoid is cheaper than funerals," Hart muttered. Noah tugged Quinn's sleeve. The knocking came from under the stairs. "But the door is stuck." He pointed to a narrow utility door, paint thicker near the latch. It had a rusted thumb turn and a bolt scarred with tiny tool marks. Quinn pressed her ear to the wood. Nothing. No whisper, no breath, just the house breathing like a sleeping animal. She glanced at Hart. "Open it." Hart slipped a pry bar under the lip, eased it. The bolt slid with a reluctant click. Cold air licked their faces. The smell was dry paper and coins. Quinn thumbed her penlight, blade of white cutting into a steep stairwell. Dust hung like a slow snowfall. On the bottom step, something gleamed, metal not native to the house, wired into the molding like a seed in a gum line. Hart reached down, lifted it with gloved fingers. A key fob, generic, scuffed, engraved with a single hand-etched line. Quinn leaned closer. The etching wasn't a line. It was a number. 2:33. Hart swallowed. "We've got him." "Maybe," Quinn said. "Or he wants us to think we do." She looked back at the family, then at the mantel clock, still stuck in its cruel certainty. Either way, the pattern escalates. He's getting brave. From deeper in the crawlspace, behind the water heater, a low buzz began, like a phone forgotten in a coat pocket. Quinn followed it to a plastic tackle box taped to the wall. She slit the tape with her penknife, lifted the lid, and stared. Inside lay a cheap burner phone, battery at 90%, screen lit with a single unread text, timestamp 2:33 a.m. It said, "Next house. Check your own." And beneath the phone, wrapped neat in zip bags, were photographs of 6 other families' living rooms at 2:33 a.m., including one that made Quinn's throat lock. A shot of her own apartment mantle, her own clock, her own handwriting on a sticky note. When Hart opened the second, heavier lid beneath the first, what he found changed everything. For the brave still here, subscribe if your lights are on. If they're off, keep listening. You need to hear this. The tackle box sat open on the concrete floor like a confession. Detective Quinn's penlight trembled slightly in her grip as she studied the second compartment. Inside lay a small, circular drive, the kind used for encrypted surveillance storage. On its metal casing, black marker letters scrawled in tidy block print. Cycle 7, confirmed. Hart frowned. Cycle? As in a rotation. Or a ritual, Quinn murmured. 7 houses, 7 times. The handwriting was too clean to be hurried. Whoever did this had time, confidence. A person who wasn't afraid of being inside a family's home long enough to organize his trophies. The phone in the evidence bag buzzed once, even though its SIM card had been removed. Hart jumped. Dead phone shouldn't do that, he said, voice tight. Someone's playing the long game, Quinn said. Remote triggers. Maybe using the house's Wi-Fi system itself. She glanced around. Power off the entire grid. Hart flipped the main breaker. The lights died, and the house plunged into black silence. Only the thin whine of the baby monitor carried through, like a mechanical breath. Then, click. It turned itself back on. The LED blinked green. And a voice, not a child's, not adult, something pitched between, whispered from the speaker. Are you watching your own door? Avery screamed. Hart yanked the monitor's cord from the wall, but the voice kept going until it cracked into static. Then silence. Quinn steadied her breathing. He's not inside this house. He's inside the network. By morning, Langley Ridge had turned into a fortress of news vans and tech crews. Every neighbor wanted answers. Every family with a smart home feared they'd be next. Quinn set up a temporary command post at the Hargreaves' kitchen table. Coffee, police reports, and the weight of sleeplessness filled the air. Tech specialist Liam Corcoran arrived from the cyber unit. Young, sharp, haunted eyes. You're not dealing with a simple hacker, he said. This guy knows behavioral timing. 233 isn't random. It's synced to a sequence of smart home diagnostics that run every night. He's hijacking it. Essentially, he's testing which homes respond to his commands fastest. So he's mapping victims through latency? Quinn said. Exactly. Each successful test gives him better access. That's why the intrusions get cleaner. Hart rubbed his temple. And what about the pictures? How'd he get inside our systems? Corcoran's face darkened. They weren't all screenshots. Some are live captures, from physical cameras. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. Quinn's mind raced. He's not just watching. He's walking in. Meanwhile, the Hargreaves were moved into protective custody. But fear isn't easily relocated. Avery's hands shook every time she saw her reflection on a phone screen. Noah had stopped speaking entirely. Jonah kept asking the same question, why us? Quinn couldn't answer. Because deep down she was asking the same question herself. At the station she replayed the burner phone's last message. Next house. Check your own. Her phone buzzed with an internal alert. Motion detected inside her apartment. 2:33 a.m. Her heart stopped. She hit the live feed. The footage showed her empty living room, calm, still, almost peaceful. Then the frame glitched. For a fraction of a second, a figure appeared standing beside her own couch, a blur of pale gray, head tilted toward the camera, holding something small and metallic. When the video stabilized, the room was empty again. Hart leaned over her shoulder. Could be corrupted data, he said. Or, Quinn whispered, he's letting us know he's ahead. The next evening a call came through dispatch. Another break-in. Another family. Same hour. Same signature. But this one ended differently. The family dog had attacked the intruder, and the intruder bled. Real blood. On the floor was a trail, tiny drops, leading out through the patio, across the lawn, and ending at the edge of the woods. The lab confirmed it belonged to someone already in the system. Declan Voss, former smart security installer. Missing for 11 months. Quinn remembered the name from an old case file, the original 233 incident. But Voss was supposed to be dead. He'd vanished after his own family's unsolved break-in last year. As the evidence text sealed the news scene, Quinn's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. One message. I told you I never left. Cycle 8 begins tonight. And in the reflection of the kitchen window she saw it. A green LED blinking faintly on her uninstalled baby monitor box back at headquarters. She stared, pulse pounding, and whispered, "God help us, he's inside the precinct. If you're still here, you've crossed the line. Hit subscribe, not for me, but because after this story you'll never trust what's watching you again." The precinct lights buzzed faintly at 2:33 a.m. Detective Mara Quinn sat at her desk, the glow from her monitor painting her face a cold, digital blue. The baby monitor, the one from evidence sealed in a plastic bag, was sitting 5 feet away on the counter of the evidence locker. But somehow its green LED had switched on again. No one had touched it. Hart hurried in with 2 coffees and froze when he saw the light. "Tell me that's not powered," he said. Quinn didn't answer. She reached for her laptop. Every nearby device, phones, printers, even the copier, flickered once like the building had blinked. Her screen flooded with white static. Then text appeared, line by line across the monitor. "Cycle 8 confirmed. Police access granted." Her jaw tightened. "He's breached our systems." Before Hart could respond, every computer in the room rebooted. The precinct's security feed appeared, one camera at a time, until they all synced into a single live view of the hallway. A man walked past the bullpen doors. Medium build. Blue coveralls. His ID badge caught the light. Declan Voss. Hart slammed the intercom. "Lockdown. We've got a live intrusion." But the intercom just echoed a distorted version of his voice, like someone replaying him half a second later. Quinn grabbed her weapon, motioned Hart toward the hallway. They stepped out, every sound too sharp, every shadow holding its breath. Halfway down the corridor, the lights flickered again. A faint knocking echoed from somewhere below them. Knock. 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 Hart swallowed. "That's coming from the basement servers." They moved quickly, shoes thudding against tile. The air grew cooler with every step down the stairs. The hum of the servers filled the narrow corridor, an artificial heartbeat. In the center aisle, a laptop was open, its screen pulsing with code. On the desk sat a small wired transmitter, blinking 233 in bright red digits. Quinn whispered, "He's using the precinct as his broadcast hub." The laptop camera was on, streaming. A live feed window showed their faces, framed perfectly. Then a man's voice, calm and steady, came through the speakers. "Detective Quinn," it said. "You're late." She froze. "Declan?" He laughed softly. "You still think I'm one person." Hart circled behind the desk, tracing cables. They ran into the wall, straight into the precinct's internal network. "He's ghosting himself through devices," Hart said. "Even if we kill this feed, he's mirrored elsewhere." Declan's voice grew sharper. "They let me die, Detective. My wife, my son, they said it was a malfunction. But you never checked the footage." "I read the report," she said. "The system fried during a lightning storm." Pause. Then, there was no storm. On screen, new footage appeared, grainy, timestamp 2:33 a.m. 1 year ago. Declan's living room. His family asleep on the couch. The camera jerked violently, a figure standing behind them with a flashlight. The man turned, and even through the blur, Quinn saw the truth. It wasn't Declan. It was someone wearing his uniform. Hart cursed under his breath. He was framed. Declan's voice returned. "And when the network marked me dead, I learned how to live inside it." Suddenly, every monitor in the server room came alive. The same number repeated over and over, 233, 233, 233, until the hum became a roar. The lights exploded into strobing white. Quinn yanked the transmitter's cord, sparks flew, and the room went black. For a heartbeat there was silence. Then, faintly through the darkness, the sound of a child's voice from a nearby speaker. "Detective Quinn, wake up." Her flashlight beam caught a small recording device in the corner, red light blinking. The playback was from less than a minute ago. A whisper she hadn't made, but in her own voice. "Next house. Check your own." Hart stepped back horrified. "He cloned you." The laptop rebooted once more, showing a live stream of her apartment. The same couch. The same clock. The same moment. Only this time, a figure stood behind the camera, face hidden by the reflection, and slowly raised a finger to the screen. Quinn lunged forward, slammed the lid shut. The monitors went dark again. The silence was heavy, final. By dawn, the system logs showed nothing unusual. The video files had been wiped clean. Officially, the precinct reported a localized hardware malfunction. The case was closed. But Quinn knew better. At 2:33 a.m. every night since, she'd sit awake, staring at her mantel clock. And every time she blinked, the clock hands would twitch, forward, then back, as if something unseen was testing her defenses. No message. No voice. Just the quiet hum of a monitor that refused to die. They thought the nightmare ended when they pulled the plug. But 3 weeks later, another family, 2 states away, reported their baby monitor lighting up on its own. 2:33 a.m. sharp. And this time, the voice on the other end whispered, "Detective Quinn says hello." If you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one. Hit subscribe before your lights flicker.